Marie Laurencin. B. Paris, 1885, D. Paris, 1956. Having come last in all her subjects at school, Marie Laurencin decided to study porcelain painting at the factory in Sèvres. When she returned to Paris, she attended Académie Humbert to complete her art education. She became an important figure in the Paris avant-garde, producing paintings, drawings, and prints. A friend of Picasso and companion of poet Guillaume Apollinaire, Laurencin was at the center of the creative set she painted in Group of Artists, 1909. That same year she posed with Apollinaire for Henri Rousseau's picture The Muse Inspires the Poet. Laurencin painted and illustrated with pastel colors and a fine wispy line. Her subjects were nearly always women, whether in portraits, as ballet dancers, or just shown relaxing. Apollinaire and Friends. This is a copy of a painting called Group of Artists, which Laurencin made as a gift for her companion Apollinaire. The first version was bought by the American art collector and writer Gertrude Stein. 1909, oil on canvas, 130 by 194 centimeters, Musée Apollinaire, Stave-Lot, Belgium. Amedeo Modigliani. B. Leghorn, Italy, 1884. B. Paris, 1920. Amedeo Modigliani's deceptively simple style owes much to his deep understanding of art history. His work focuses almost exclusively on the female form, and his modern, forthright nudes, for example, echo the great masters he so admired: Titian, Ingres, and Francisco de Goya. His full frontal portraits are instantly recognizable by their staring, often quizzical expressions. Modigliani contracted tuberculosis as a child, and the illness persisted throughout his adult life. He studied art extensively in Italy before moving to Paris in 1906, where he worked as a painter initially. He took up sculpture from 1909 to 1914, before returning to his easel to produce the finest works of his short, turbulent life. Modigliani was gregarious, and prone to alcohol and drug abuse, but he was intensely private and dedicated when at work. Lifeline. 1884. Born the fourth and youngest child of a well-to-do Jewish family, 1902-03. Studies art in Florence and Venice, sees the work of Toulouse-Lautrec, 1906. Moves to Paris, and sets up studio in Montmartre, 1912. Exhibits series of sculpted heads at Salon d'Automne, Autumn Salon, exhibition. 1914-15. Gives up sculpture and vigorously affirms his talent as a painter. 1917. Meets Jean Hébuterne, who gives birth to a daughter, Giovanna, the following year. 1919. Returns to Paris after a prolonged stay in Italy due to ill health. 1920. Dies of tuberculosis on January 24. Jean commits suicide the following day. Caryatide. A woman's body twists under a heavy burden, one of many drawings, watercolors, and sculptures on the theme. 1913-14. Oil on cardboard, 60 by 54 centimeters, Pompidou Center, Paris, France. Nude with necklace, with her arms behind her head, the woman poses displaying her glowing flesh and, shockingly for the time, her pubic hair. Modigliani's nudes exude a vibrant sexuality, of which they are keenly aware. He had only one solo exhibition during his lifetime. It was closed down on the grounds of indecency. 1917. Oil on canvas, 73 by 116 centimeters, Solomon R. Guggenheim Museum, New York, U.S. In context. Other civilizations. Like many Parisian artists, Modigliani was interested in so-called primitive objects from Africa or Oceania, but he was also deeply immersed in the art of the ancient world. His modernist sculptures bear a remarkable resemblance to those made by the ancient Greeks, Etruscans, and Egyptians. Busts of Amenophis IV. Modigliani frequently sketched the statues and friezes on display in the Egyptian department of the Louvre in Paris. The power of their simplicity greatly influenced his sculpture, as well as the painting of his final years. Jean Hébuterne, just 19 when she met Modigliani, Hébuterne embarked on a turbulent love affair with the artist. Pregnant with their second child, she is portrayed here with great tenderness. Her simple pastel clothing suggests a poor farm girl, rather than the lover of Paris's sophisticated wild man. 1919. Oil on canvas, 127 by 81 centimeters, private collection. Closer look. Oval faces. Modigliani's painting was deeply influenced by his sculpture. His subjects' oval faces can convey both a mask-like indifference and subtly incisive characterization. Elongated shaped stylized forms, a twisted or elongated body for example, are often used to stress traits of a sitter's personality, such as arrogance, aloofness, or, as here, gracefulness. Julio Gonzalez. B. Barcelona, 1876, d'Arcueil, near Paris, 1942. The pioneering semi-abstract sculptures created by Julio Gonzalez stemmed from his apprenticeship as a metalworker in his father's forge in Barcelona. He subsequently took up painting and became friends with Picasso before moving to Paris in 1900. There, he earned his living making jewelry and selling the occasional painting or drawing. Gonzalez was deeply affected when his painter brother, Joan, died in 1908. It took him almost 2 decades to find his niche, but in 1927 he wholeheartedly devoted himself to metal sculpture. Gonzalez made many important works, including the uncharacteristic Montserrat. He collaborated with Picasso between 1928 and 1932, providing the technical expertise for Monument to Apollinaire, 1928-32. His influence on subsequent generations of sculptors was enormous. Lifeline. 1876. Born in Barcelona, the son of a goldsmith and metalworker, 1891 begins apprenticeship under his father's tutelage, 1897 meets Picasso, 1900 sets up studio in Paris, 1908 his brother Joan dies, 1918 works at Renault's Boulogne-Billancourt factory, in the welding shop, 1922 exhibits paintings, sculptures, and jewelry pluers. 1927 takes up metal sculpting full-time, 1937 exhibits Montserrat at Paris World Fair, 1942 dies, near Paris. Woman arranging her hair. Iron had become associated with weaponry and death. Gonzalez's answer was to transform the metal into witty and touching human forms. He learned the new skill of oxyacetylene welding while working at Renault's Boulogne-Billancourt factory. Employing this industrial technique, he revolutionized sculptural art. 1929-30, Iron Pompidou Center, Paris, France. Chaim Soutine. B. Smilovici, Belarus, 1893, D. Paris, 1943. Chaim Soutine, a Lithuanian Jew from an impoverished family of 11 children, chose to contravene the orthodox ban on image-making and became a painter. After studying art at Minsk and Vilnius, he moved to Paris in 1913, staying at low-cost artists' studios in La Ruche. He worked solely in oils, developing an impassioned style that unified bold colors, strongly directional brushwork, and thick surface texture. He is most associated with portraits of Paris's working class, such as porters, hotel maids, bellboys, and cooks. He was a shy, mistrustful man, and these were perhaps the people with whom he felt most at ease. Between 1919 and 1921, Soutine worked extensively at Céret, in the south of France, where he painted more than 100 canvases, many of which he later destroyed. In 1923, the American pharmaceutical millionaire Albert C. Barnes visited Paris. He discovered Soutine's work and bought 52 pictures, changing the artist's fortunes at a stroke. Lifeline. 1893. Born in Smilovici, Belarus, 1907-12 studies art and design in Minsk and Vilnius, Lithuania, 1913 takes studio in Paris, 1915 meets Modigliani, Chagall, and the sculptor Jacques Lipchitz, 1919-21 works at Céret, 1922-23 Albert C. Barnes buys over 50 paintings, 1927 first solo exhibition, 1928 paints portrait Madame Madeleine casting, 1937-38 second and final public exhibition, in Paris, 1943 dies in Paris. Landscape at Céret. A Soutine landscape has an extraordinary, almost vertigo-inducing energy. Here the houses, stormy sky, and rock forms reel across the canvas, bending the horizon in all directions. Despite the dynamism, there is a sense of his isolation and loneliness, which was heightened by the death of his friend Modigliani. 1920-21, oil on canvas, 91 by 112 centimeters, Tate, London, UK. Woman in red soutine had no desire to ridicule his sitters. The woman's twisted body, her battered hat curving down to where her mouth attempts to curve up, and her wandering eye are a tribute to his subject's individuality. The abundant red, a symbol of intense passions, reminds the viewer of the passing of time, like an expressionistic memento mori. 1922, oil on canvas, 91 by 62 centimeters, private collection.